This is one of those episodes where you really need to listen all the way through. You'll miss the magic if you're only half paying attention. So grab some coffee, my personal favorite, a chai tea latte, or depending on where you're at in the world, maybe a cuppa feels more appropriate for you, and get cozy because you're in for a treat. Aubrey Vejvoda is a former marketing student of mine in the photography world turned HypnoCoach. I bet you didn't see that one coming. She quit her photography business, and today Aubrey is on the front lines trying to help make hypnosis mainstream. Aubrey shares her postpartum depression experience and the shame and guilt inside of not feeling fully fulfilled as a stay-at-home mom. I was raising my hand right alongside her, and I'm sure that some of you feel very similarly. She also talks about how her deeper message for other women and moms, something that she sort of learned as she was coming out of the other side of postpartum depression, became something she needed to share beyond photography, as well as the red flags that led her out of her photography business as a whole. She's still a photographer today, but it's for herself. And then the last part of the show, I'm so excited for this part, Aubrey gives us the overview of what hypnosis is, how it's different than meditation, and get this, she even walks us through a short hypnosis for relaxation at the end. So just a heads up, you cannot be driving for this portion. You'll want to sit down, close your eyes, and let Aubrey guide you. So that's the short summary of what's ahead. But before we start, I want you to pay extra attention here. Through this episode, Aubrey models what life can look like when you follow your divine breadcrumbs. And you might not know what that means quite yet, but I promise you'll get it soon enough. So often we look outside of ourselves for the answers. You might remember I ranted about this in episode 56. Aubrey models honing that ability to think for yourself in complete trust and confidence of yourself and to hear your own intuition. So I can't wait for you to hear all of this. I'll talk to you after. Enjoy the story. I was so eager beaver to get this episode started that I forgot to tell you where the show notes are. So go to dangerouslygoodstories.com/077 for a super short summary of all that we talk about here with all of the links and the ways to connect with Aubrey. Now for real this time, enjoy the story. Hey Aubrey, this conversation has been a long time coming, and we started talking about this, I think at the beginning of the summer. And so I have been patiently waiting for the end of summer to come so I could get you onto Intentional Documentary. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am so excited. I told you before, but it is just so surreal to be interviewing on your podcast.
You know, never in a million years could I have ever predicted to see somebody have such a big transformation after I crossed paths with them. Not that I'm part of where you're at now, I didn't get you to where you're at now, but it is so cool to have witnessed, I guess is the best word, your journey in the past couple of years. So I know I'm kind of being mysterious to those of you who are listening. So Aubrey, tell us let's start at the beginning with your journey as a photographer. We crossed paths when you came into Mastering Moment Seekers, but I don't really know that much about you beforehand, if you were always drawn to documentary photography, why you really got into this business and the photography business and what led you up to that point.
Yeah, well, honestly, you've been a catalyst in quite a lot of my life in the last 4 years or so. But photography has always been a major cornerstone in my life. It's been a way that I've always been able to express myself. I'm someone who identifies now as an introverted extrovert. I've found that I'm actually an introvert, but throughout my formidable years, learned to be an extrovert, learned that's what people around me wanted from me, and became that. But hiding behind the camera was always my safe space, is what I've realized now, that I always was able to shut the world out when I needed to by hiding behind, whether it was my little pink film camera when I was 5 or, my big girl camera now. It's a place that I can kind of escape to.
Mm-hmm.
After becoming a mom, I was seeing all of those Pinterest perfect photos and wanting to replicate those, and started to lose my love for shooting because I was feeling so caught up in the props and the backgrounds and competing with that perfect look. And I think that's when I stumbled upon Fearless and Framed and found you. And I don't even know how that happened, how I found you, but I found the Facebook group Fearless that you had, Fearless and Framed, and joined that. And that's when things really started to change for me as a mom-tographer.
Yeah.
That's when I really was like, oh yes, I used to always capture just the regular moments. I don't know why that changed when I became a mom. And you really inspired me to get back into just capturing the moments that were coming. So,
oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah, it was a really neat transition, and I got really lit up behind my camera again. But it wasn't, I didn't turn it into a business right away.
Okay.
That happened after I had my second baby. So when I had my first daughter, Harper, back in 2015, I experienced really bad postpartum depression and anxiety. So that really held me back. I felt like I was in this darkness for 2 years after having her. And then that's when my second baby was born. It was exactly 2 years and 2 weeks later than my first. And I started feeling this passion and this joy that I hadn't felt in years. Honestly, even before having my first daughter, I was in such a bad depression that I hadn't experienced joy in so long. And it was right around that time that she was born that I decided that I wanted to do something more.
Okay.
I'd always thought my purpose was to be a mom, and I would have some sort of little business on the side. And when I became a stay-at-home mom, I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So I thought that the photography, turning that into a business as a little side project would add that fulfillment.
Yeah.
So that's how that got started for me.
Okay. Oh, that is so powerful. And I think that I don't know. I've never really put that title on myself as a stay-at-home mom, but when I look back in hindsight, that's really what I was. And I had this business on the side. My kids always came first. And I love what you said about how it's just so parallel for me. I thought when I got married, the next step was to have a family. The photography stuff for me came after my daughter was born. And same also, like, it's just so interesting how I loved photography before, but I never had a real camera. I never pursued learning it, but yet, I think I just navigated to, or was gravitated to those natural, real moments. But then when I had Kendall, same thing. Like, I saw the Pinterest images, I saw the photos my other mom friends were sharing, and I just sort of changed, and I didn't even realize that I did. And then I kind of made my way back, which is how Fearless and Framed came to be. But I think that I have had a lot of guilt around not feeling fulfilled as a stay-at-home mom. So I'm wondering, how did that make you feel when you realized, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This isn't fulfilling me. Did you feel guilt around that, or did you feel like that's okay? Like, I just do need to find something different. Like, I'm just so curious.
Oh, the guilt was so real. The shame was so real. And I think that contributed to my postpartum depression and anxiety so heavily, because I think I knew immediately that this is not what I want to be doing forever. But I'd always wanted to be a good mom. and I've
Yeah.
always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And that comes from my childhood. I was primarily raised by a single dad who very much instilled in me that, you know, parents should stay together and moms really need to be home with their children. And I never had that. And so, I always wanted to become that. And yeah, so when I first became a mom and I had this feeling that this is not fulfilling for me. Yes, I love being a mom, but this is not everything. I have a bigger purpose on this world. And the guilt was real. It was real. It stemmed back from, you know, wanting to please my dad
Mm-hmm.
all the way to being good enough for my daughter. And then just, you know, that sense of failure, that if I wasn't a good stay-at-home mom, that I was failing at that. So yeah, the shame and the guilt came from so many angles that it kept me, you know, I just kept trying to be that good stay-at-home mom. And then every time that I would, you know, quote unquote, fail at that, or feel that I was failing at that I wasn't feeling that fulfillment. I think that's where I felt the failure, that I would try so hard. I would make the dinners. I would do the little, you know, all of the little activities. I was in the music programs. I brought my daughter, you know, and when I had my second, we were always in activities. On the outside, I very much presented and very much was that very present mother who put her children first. And on the inside, I was feeling so dead and unsatisfied and unfulfilled. And the guilt that my daughters weren't that fulfillment for me. Yeah, it was heavy.
Yeah. And as soon as you said the word shame, I just was like pinged with emotion, because it's like, I've so been there. So, I mean, I know this is super oversimplifying it, but would you say, like, from where you were at then to where you are at now, that part of the work that you've done is maybe redefine what being a good mom means?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's really where the work had to start. I really had to see that I wanted to be the example for my daughters. I have these two beautiful daughters who I want to grow up to be world changers. I want them to feel so empowered and confident that they can do anything that they want to do in this world. And here I am suppressing all of these major dreams. I realized that, you know, it was in the Mastery Moment Seekers course with you, that you and Nikki Elledge Brown both suggested doing future me meditations.
Right.
So I got on YouTube and I searched that night for a YouTube, you know, future me meditation, and found one. If you search that on YouTube, the first one that comes up is a duo with Michael Seeley and somebody else. And they do it together, and it's pretty cheesy. It actually made me laugh in the beginning. It still makes me crack up in the beginning, because the way that they layer their voices together is kind of cheesy. But but it's actually, now that I know this, now that I'm a trained hypnotherapist, I know that it's actually a hypnosis. It's a guided hypnosis. But that meditation, that hypnosis changed my life. And I really got this picture of who my highest version of myself can become. And it incorporated all of these dreams that I used to have. And that's when I realized that I was no longer saying, I'm going to do this. I have these dreams. I was now saying, you know, I used to want to do this.
Yeah.
And I realized I had given up on those dreams. And so the first step for me was really realizing that I want for my daughters what I would want for little Aubrey, and all of the things little Aubrey wanted. And all of a sudden I was stifling my own dreams and my own fire, you know, that fire within. And how am I being an example for my daughters if I'm not passionately living my dreams? So
good.
That was the reframing that I had to do there, was, you know, that yes, I want to be home with them. I want them to know that they're my world and my priority, and that I'm always here for them to comfort and support them. But I'm also doing big things in the world, because women can do it all. We can be both, and it doesn't have to be either or. So
yeah. So you were feeling that heaviness of not being fulfilled as a mom, not only, but you know what I mean, only doing that. And was that your solution, your first attempt to a solution was, okay, maybe I need to do something for myself. And that's when you started the photography business?
Yeah, I think that was the first real solution. I had all of these other little side things that I've done. I managed Disney princesses for a little bit. We would go to birthday parties and events dressed as Disney princesses.
Oh, I remember. Yes, I remember. Now I remember pictures of that time.
Yes, yeah, as Rapunzel or Belle or Snow White. Yeah, that was really fun. But again, I started doing that, and as I was taking on more responsibility in that business, in that company, I realized, well, this isn't what I want to be doing. And, this is just taking time away from my kids and I'm not happy doing it. And I had a stint doing baby wearing dance classes. So I would choreograph little line dances while you would wear your baby, and moms would come and learn the dances, and we would do that. And that was a lot of fun. But again, there's these just things that I was trying to really insert myself in the mom community. Choosing the photography business was the first passion project that felt true to me. And it was my first real attempt at, okay, this is, sit down with Max. This is real. Like we're going to set aside time so that I can start this business and make it something.
Okay. So why did you join Mastery Moment Seekers?
Well, because you were my first introduction into family documentary photography. And when I first saw what you were doing back in 2015, I think that I found you, I knew that was, I wanted to be that, right? So you became kind of a role model for me in the photography community, and I wanted to be doing what you were doing, even to the extent of how you were, acting as a coach or a mentor or a teacher to other photographers. I saw myself being that for other women in some capacity. So joining Mastery Moment Seekers to me was, what Nikki Elledge-Brown would call a divine breadcrumb on my journey.
Yeah.
That's a term that I love.
Yeah.
And it was a big moment for me. It was a big investment for me at that time as a stay-at-home mom. I've made much larger investments in myself since then. So now it feels like nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
At the time it felt huge. And it was, joining made it real for me. It was, okay, if I am spending this money on this course, it's because this is going to be real. So I think it was that way of validating to myself that I'm going to make this commitment and not just going to do this as a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to make it a real business, and you're going to treat it like a business. You're going to show up as a business owner. So you got into this, and the goal of Mastery Moment Seekers is to connect with your voice and like refine what that is and turn it into this marketing content that isn't necessarily selling content, but it is to create this warm audience. What happened along the way when you were in there? Because you didn't come out on the other side like other students that are just pursuing their photography journey. You went on a whole other path.
Yeah, your Mastery Moment Seeker course for photographers definitely transitioned me out of photography.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. It didn't. Yeah, like it's like, it's such the best story. So go for it.
Yes, it is it was a good thing, and I am still in photography, but it's in a way that fuels me. So your mod 1 of that course, the first module, was all about time and energy management. And that was the life-changing course for me. I was a big journaler before, and for years I hadn't been writing. And you really encouraged to do morning pages and to journal. And then there was the meditation aspect, which it was something that I did a lot as a teenager too. And so it's all of a sudden I'm bringing back into my life these practices that I used to have that I had put to the wayside. And that was a pivotal moment for me. And then going throughout the course, defining my message, I was realizing that what the message that I was really wanting to spread was that, moms can love themselves, women can love themselves for who they are, and they can take care of themselves. And Jada Selner has this beautiful analogy of envisioning ourselves as a teacup. And so often women and moms especially, we're giving away all of the tea in our cup, so much so that we only ever have a little sip left at the bottom. But because somebody always needs something, we're always giving that sip away. And we never have any tea for ourselves. And so we feel exhausted and drained. And our loved ones aren't getting the best of us because they're only just getting these sips. So the goal being to take care of yourself so much that your teacup is overflowing, so that when somebody needs something from you, that you can take the saucer from underneath the cup and give them the overflow. And you're never actually giving from your teacup. And that idea just really resonated with me. And between that idea and your module 1 of time and energy management, I realized how important that aspect is. And so as I'm going through your course and I'm defining my message, trying to sell this photography side of things, I was trying to force, a square peg in a round hole, because my messaging was becoming, to help women get out of their mess, and to step into their lives and to put themselves first, and how that paradox really allows you to show up better in the way that you want to in the rest of your life. And so I was trying to make that work for photography. Yeah.
And so you got as far, I remember I actually went into our Facebook group before we started this call, and I saw like you did the interviews, which is part of module 2. You created a lead magnet, which I think is part of module 4. So like you really like stuck with it and you did the work. And it was like at the same time, this whole other thing was being birthed. Mm-hmm. So I remember around that time too, you started listening to Nikki Elledge Brown's Naptime Empires podcast. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Religiously.
Yeah. And how did you, just off the top of your head, what was one of your favorite episodes?
Oh, easy. That would be the episode with Julie Santiago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That
and that really changed my life. I listened to it over and over. She has a quote, I quoted her in there on one of my Instagram posts because it was so beautiful. Just about how her transition wasn't, it wasn't her becoming who she was. It was more of a homecoming.
Yes. I've seen her say that online. Like I've seen it in writing somewhere. And honestly, by the time this goes out, my listeners already know I have opened up another brand, Dangerously Good Stories. And that is like the exact same way I feel about that and moving away from Fearless and Framed. And so I like that emotion behind that. Oh, I so know how you feel. And it actually what you said in your email, it feels like there's this fire inside of you for life again. Mm-hmm. It's just different than this passion you thought you had.
Yeah.
Hard to describe.
It is so hard to describe. And you're right that I finished out that Mastery Moment Seeker course. I did finish it out as a photographer. I launched my website on my birthday, sent out my whole email. I had the whole email sequence. I had it all. I went through your course as a photographer, just trying to fit that square peg in a round hole. But all the while I was talking to my best friend and I was telling her, I'm doing this, but I don't see myself being a photographer forever. I see myself, again, using you as my inspiration. I see myself teaching women, helping women in some way, like just the way that Marie is, specifically in that mod 1, that time and energy management. And in the way that, Nikki Elledge Brown is showing up, the way Julie Santiago is showing up, I see myself showing up for women in that way, but I just don't know how to get there or what that looks like. So I'm just going to follow this photography piece because this feels like my stepping stone. And so I did. I went through, I launched the business, and I mean, as soon as I was launching the business on my birthday, knowing like this isn't it. There's something right around the corner. And it was shortly after that things changed for me. Yeah.
So was there anything in the photography business aspect that felt hard and that you were like just any red flags or anything that you just straight up didn't like? Or was it more so that you found this other thing that felt a little bit more right and maybe you didn't even know what it was and you just wanted to run towards that just to follow your curiosity? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both, but there were definitely red flags. The fact that I was spending all of this time editing client photos and my personal photos were getting backlogged for months and I not being touched. My photo albums weren't being created for myself. And then delivering these photos and feeling like while the clients loved them and enjoyed them, I don't know that they appreciated them the way that I appreciate my own photos of my family. And so then there was a little bit of resentment there, like, no, love them more, appreciate them more, because I could be spending this time on my own photos. And then too, when it came down to the messaging, when I had this larger message that I was trying to fit into, what felt like convincing moms that they can love themselves enough to have a documentary photo session, that they don't have to worry about being picture perfect all of the time, that they can trust and love that they're perfect the way they are. And that's the message I really wanted to be sharing. But then I was adding this aspect of, so buy a photography package so that you can, love yourself through this documentary. And there was this missing piece of, I feel like they need to be coached into loving themselves. It's not going to be as easy as reading this email and me telling them that, yes, you can love yourself the way you are. There needed to be more there. And so I felt that dissonance between my message and what I was offering.
I just love that you noticed all of that and you listened to yourself and trusted the feelings that were coming up. If you were to give any advice to people who are starting to just really pay attention to their own divine breadcrumbs and also the red flags, but they're not really sure like how to act and when to act, I guess you could say, how were you brave enough to respond in the way that you did that's taken you to where you are now?
I got super clear on where I wanted to be in the future.
Okay.
Not where I wanted to be 1 year from now, but where I wanted to be, towards the end of my life. What did I want to look back and say that this is what I've accomplished and this is what I've done? And getting super clear on that as much as I could. And I'm still defining that. I think that's an ever evolving process that we need to check in. It's almost like a North Star. Yeah. Seeing this end, this is the purpose. This is what you need to accomplish in this life. And I feel that we're all given, a divine purpose and that we all have access to just discovering what that purpose is within our own selves if we take that time to go within and find it. And the Future Me meditation is by far the most pivotal thing because it allowed me to really go to that point in my future of looking back and seeing what have I accomplished and what, imagining that end game and looking back, knowing that I feel completely lit up, passionate, and fulfilled. What did I do to cause that feeling? What did I accomplish to get to that point? And, hopefully by the time this airs, I'll actually have my own Future Me hypnosis on my website that people will be able to listen to and do on their own and go back to and do again and again, because the more times you do it, the clearer you get on what it is, what this future looks like. And then you start showing up as that person. So for me, I saw myself helping women. When I did that first Future Me meditation, I saw very clearly that I was helping women, that women would gather with me and I would help them on a spiritual soul level. At the time, I would have said that I like to be spiritual, but I wasn't doing anything that qualified or made me a spiritual person, other than I believed in some sort of higher power. But so at the time I saw that and I knew for a fact it was my future, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. I'm in this photography course. I'm opening a photography business. I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I trusted that that was my future. And then every day would show up and just ask, what do I need to do today that will serve my highest and greatest good to get me to that future? And for a bit, it was continuing the photography business until the next thing presented itself. But it was just showing up every day and asking myself and trusting that gut feeling, that intuition that said, do this today. And I think just keeping in touch with that future me, that North Star, it really kept me anchored in to feeling what was in alignment to that and what wasn't. And I was able to eventually, over time, let go of the photography business as I did transition. And it was still scary. And I definitely still had those background voices saying, you're a failure. But I also had the wisdom within me that knew that I am on my path. And while, externally it might look to somebody that I'm failing because I'm closing my photography business within a year of opening it, my highest self deep within me, I knew that I am about to do something that is on purpose for me, that is meant for me. And so I was able to stay aligned with that. So I think the biggest thing is getting really clear on what that end goal is, and just showing up every day to do whatever you can in that day to take baby steps towards that.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, like, it's not like you did a future me meditation and sat down when you were working on your photography business and was like, oh, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist and a HypnoCoach. Like, it wasn't like there was no what. You just kind of knew, like, the energy, and you knew, like, there were just these little details that you knew to follow. It wasn't like this crystal clear path. In fact, I heard this from Nikki Elledge Brown. She introduced me to Martin Luther King's quote about how you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so true. You actually don't get to see the whole staircase.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
The universe, God, it doesn't show you the whole staircase. And that's because, I believe that while, I believe we co-create our lives, our life experience. And in doing so, it's what it's like life is kind of like a choose your own adventure book. And you can show up each day and choose, how am I going to live today? And depending on how you show up that day, the universe, God, can show up and co-create that experience with you, giving you the divine breadcrumbs that you need on whatever journey you chose. And so when you show up and say, I'm here to live my highest and greatest purpose, and start showing up each day saying, okay, what will bring me there? You're only going to get that very next step. So yeah, I definitely didn't know. I didn't know that it would be hypnotherapy and coaching. I had no idea when I did that recording. I had no idea, but I trusted this sense that there was something bigger. And I use the word bigger, but photography is a beautiful thing. So it was, for me, it was just something different,
Yeah.
Yeah. It took a lot of intuition and trusting that. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't a crystal ball clear as day.
Yeah.
I would have never been able to guess that this is where I'd be today.
For sure. And what's really cool about all of this is, especially like if you think back to Aubrey, who was a stay-at-home mom, not feeling fulfilled, and then feeling like the shame around all of that, which I also know very well, very familiar with those feelings. Like, thinking of her and then where you are now, I would imagine there's been a lot of little steps in between where you have just proven to yourself time and time again to trust that, like, one next step. And that probably has made like whatever next step comes up tomorrow. Like it just makes it so much easier because it feels like I'm safe. I've done this before. The step might look a little bit different, but I've survived this far and I've come a long way. Whereas probably in the beginning, I would imagine, because I know I felt it, it's just really scary to do anything different or risky or just trusting my gut because I was like, well, I thought that this was what I wanted and this isn't exactly it. And so I could think like then like all these like self-sabotaging thoughts and fears get into our head. But then the more you practice future me meditations, or I was doing future me meditations and future pace journaling, and it's what created the Preservation Project, which is now turning into Dangerously Good Stories. It's what took me out of Michigan and brought me down to South Carolina, to my little Moss Mountain, as we call it. But it wasn't like I just jumped into those things. It was lots of little steps and me proving myself right, and maybe getting on a coaching call with somebody, or reading something, or going for a walk when I felt like I should be behind the computer, and just time and time again proving myself right. Did you feel that way?
Oh goodness, yes. Yeah. The first time that I followed that intuition and took, it felt like a huge risk in trusting my intuition was when I did sign up for Mastery Moment Seekers. And I don't even remember how much that cost at the time. I think it was like $600. And that's like such a huge investment in myself and in this dream that I had for my photography business, but it felt like such a divine breadcrumb. And I did meditate on that a little bit. I wasn't huge into meditation at that time, but it was, a lot of sitting and thinking and feeling into if this is really what I meant to do, because it felt like I was risking a whole lot, that if I wasn't successful at that I would be letting so many people down. Mostly my family, because it was our money that I was spending, but also the time that I was investing into it. And that felt like a huge one. And then as the risks I've taken come along, the investments have gotten pricier and pricier. And each time it's like, now it's a couple $1,000s. Well, it feels right, so I'm doing it. There's no question.
Yeah.
Even upwards of a couple thousand. But it's trusting that first one and then getting the validation. And the validation doesn't come right away. It might come, days or weeks or months after that was a divine breadcrumb that got me someplace. But the more that happens, and it starts small, I think, because the universe, God, gives you what you can handle, but it feels really big at the time. But then you're right, it becomes this evolution where moving to a whole different state, for your example, just feels divinely right.
Yeah, that's such a good point, that there's not this instant validation. I mean, so many of my own divine breadcrumbs I've only seen in hindsight, not necessarily in that moment that they hit me. Mm-hmm. But it was later on, kind of looking back after I've taken action. So what is the difference between meditation and hypnosis?
That's a really great question. So my teacher, Grace Smith, she defines hypnosis as meditation with a goal. So actually, a lot of the guided meditations that people have experienced that are out there, that are called guided meditations, a lot of them are actually hypnosis. It's just that the term hypnosis has a stigma. It's very misunderstood. So guided meditation is much more accepted. And so a lot of people will use that term instead. But it's really just a process of relaxing, just like meditation is. With meditation, typically the idea is to relax, to bring in a sense of calmness and presence. With hypnosis, once you're in that relaxed state, there then is the addition of a goal. So we all have things in our lives that are holding us back, whether they're limiting beliefs or bad habits. We all have things that are keeping us from being able to play as big as we could in this world. And so we add in that goal of reframing and reprogramming whatever's in the subconscious so that those thoughts, beliefs, and habits can then serve you better.
Okay. And I'm like thinking back and I'm like, I think I've probably done more of this than I've realized.
Yeah, a lot of people have.
Yeah. So what do you do now? So who do you help? How do you help people? What does this look like for you as a woman, as a mom, as a business owner?
So now I am a certified HypnoCoach. I was certified as a professional life coach through the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching, IPEC.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a hypnotherapist trained through Grace Space Hypnosis, founded by Grace Smith. And they're two of the very best institutions for coaching and hypnotherapy in the world. And so I'm very grateful to have trained with such amazing institutions and directly under Grace, who is the world's best hypnotherapist. She's been seen on The Doctors and in Forbes, BuzzFeed. She's all over. And she's got this goal of making hypnosis mainstream. And when I joined, I thought, I'd be using hypnosis as a tool in my coaching belt, but things have switched since completing my training, and hypnosis is definitely the center of what I do. And the coaching really allows me to be a really great hypnotist, HypnoCoach. So what I do now is I really use my mess as my message, so to speak, where I now work with moms and women who are feeling that there's depression or anxiety or something that is holding them back from showing up in their lives in the way that they want to. And I work with them through hypnosis and some coaching around reframing and reprogramming the shame, the guilt, the resentment, the frustration, the exhaustion, so that they're able to show up as the women and mothers that they truly want to be. It's really an honor to be able to do so. And I work with people one-on-one. I do phone sessions, so I work with people all over the country on a one-on-one, hypno-coaching capacity. And then I also work in my local community holding gatherings every new moon. And I might increase that to every new and full moon coming up. But I gather women in circle, and it's a really beautiful experience that we start off with sharing vulnerably, doing a few exercises that breed connection and vulnerability and healing in a way that women aren't typically used to, because I could go into that much deeper, but women aren't used to just connecting on this soul level. And so it's really a powerful way of healing for women to gather. And then we do some group hypnosis at the end. And I'm also going to be, I forgot to mention this to you, Marie, before we hopped on, but I'm going to be launching a group hypno coaching experience for women who want to feel empowered and also learn how to connect with other women on a deeper level. And it will also go through that process of overcoming the depression and the anxiety and stepping into their purpose. So that will be a 12-week program on, I haven't gotten a name for it yet, but the premise is that homecoming idea, that coming home to yourself. So I'm really excited for that.
Oh my gosh, I've just got chills because I'll never forget the day, and I can't remember the exact words. I screenshot what you wrote at some point, and I know it somewhere, but I'll just never forget this one day, and this little Facebook comment popped up, and it said something about how myself and listening to Nikki Hillage Brown, you had found your identity again. Mm-hmm. And then listening to you in the beginning, talking about how I knew I wanted to do something like Marie, where she's a mentor for somebody else, and then all these other little things, and you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so cool. This is like full circle.
It gives me goosebumps. And it was this, so the trail of divine breadcrumbs, it started with you. It led to Nikki. You brought Nikki into the Mastery Moment Seeker course to do a little talk.
Right. Yeah.
That was my intro to Nikki. And then I started I joined her, a course about copy so that I could create my website. And so it was between Mastery Moment Seekers, a course about copy, that I created this marketing, platform and my website for my photography business. And now I've actually since used both of those again for this business, for my HypnoCoaching business. I just, altered what you've created for Mastery Moment Seekers because it's such great content.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I used it again. It was well worth the investment. But then Nikki had on Jada Selner on her podcast, and also Julie Santiago. And then I started listening to Jada's podcast. I bought Julie Santiago's book, Awaken, which I highly recommend to every woman. I've made all of my friends and clients read it. It's amazing. I ended up doing a coaching call with Julie. I caught an email that she sent out on, she was doing these coaching calls. So I jumped on that. And that was one of those scary divine breadcrumbs that we were talking about earlier. Even that, getting on that coaching call, that was my first ever experience speaking one-on-one with a mentor or a coach. And I was terrified because I felt like my life was such a mess. And I was so afraid. I had so much shame that I was judging myself, that I assumed everyone else was going to judge me too. And here I am jumping on the phone with this author, this woman who I idolize. In a way, I idolized her, and I was so afraid to just spill my mess to her. But that was such a pivotal moment. And I ended up going to her retreat, where I sat in circle with 19 women for 4 days. And that's where I got the message that I need to be bringing that home, that I need to be bringing these circles home. And this is really what I need to be doing, is sharing the spiritual side of my journey. And so then I came home, and things kind of spiraled up after that. But it was before then that I even joined the coaching. Okay. It was after my coaching call with her. I had signed up for her retreat, but the retreat wasn't for a few months yet. And I decided, well, if I'm going to become, that was one of those next big scary steps. It's, if I am going to become Marie, Nikki, Julie, Jada, if I'm going to manifest that, then I need to take the next action step. And it was a big one of joining the coaching program. That was a huge step of, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Did I just make a huge mistake? Feeling like an imposter. The same thing when I joined the hypnotherapy school. But yes, you women were definitely divine breadcrumbs on my journey. And so now it's, a year and a half later, and I'm creating a course and creating a group workshop. I am gathering women on a monthly basis. If you can hear my dog barking in the background, I'm sorry. He's having a very vivid dream, apparently. No worries. But I'm all of a sudden, that's who I am. And there was a comment that I think I posted about one of my circles after I'd had one, and Julie Santiago commented on it and said, "You're doing it." And it gave me goosebumps, because it's oh my gosh, is that full circle? Yeah. And now, being interviewed on your podcast, which I would listen to, when you first came out with it, and I would sit and listen and think, how do I get good enough at photography to be on Marie's podcast someday? And I listened to Nikki's podcast. How do I create a business that is epic enough? How do I create some sort of transformation that is epic enough that Nikki has me on her podcast someday? And so I'm still manifesting that, but
yeah. Oh yeah. And it's like, I could not wait to talk to you. Like, this waiting all summer long was like forever. Like, just even like, I don't even care where like the next part of your journey goes. I mean, of course I care about you, but I just have immediately, when I knew that you like moved away from photography and went towards something else, I just loved it, because what I was saying before we started recording, I see so many people burned out and frustrated that their business isn't working. And I wanted you to be an example to show that like, this is like, you're not failing if you change your mind. You can change your mind. And not only just that, but the element of you going from, stay at home mom, not fulfilled, to all the work that you've done, the inner work that you've done on yourself. Like, that was the thing that I wanted to ask you next was Max. Not that you can speak for your husband, but he has got to just be awestricken with this journey that you have been on, because I would imagine like you are showing up at home as just like so much more vibrant than you probably were before all of this. Like, do you have any idea like how he sees you, like how he sees you now?
Oh yeah. I mean, showing up more vibrant is an understatement. He would come home to a disaster of a house, a wife who is practically crying, if not actually crying, me in my pajamas with my robe, just a mess. Like, here, take the kids, that was more so before my second was born, but he would come home to just his wife a disaster, his house a disaster. And he really had to be a rock for me for a couple of years. And now things have changed and I am that rock. He's doing his own self-development journey right alongside of me, but because it's something that I do full time between all of my trainings, the coach training and the hypnotherapy training, it includes a whole lot of self-development. You can't go through those trainings without having to do a lot of self-development. So it's really become my full-time job to do my inner work, which is very fulfilling and exciting for me. But he has to do that. He has to do his work, in between his actual job.
Yeah.
So I think now I wouldn't say maybe he would say he's awestrucken, but I think he has always seen this potential within me. And he's made comments before that, that he's not surprised by all of the things that I do. And I think at first, when it was, hey, I want to sign up for this photography marketing course. And now I want to go on this retreat. And now I want to sign up for coaching. The first few times it was, he was having to take that leap of faith with me, but he always believed in me. And now I'll be like, hey, I got this divine breadcrumb and I'm going to be doing this. He's like, okay, yep. Have no doubt.
Yeah.
So, I think he's just more proud. I think that would be the best word to describe it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. All right. Let's talk iconic photos. You've sent two. You can take the lead and start talking about them. Those of you listening, the photos will be in the show notes, so you can navigate there to dangerouslygoodstories.com, and you will see the photos for this episode. But go ahead, Aubrey, tell us about them.
Yeah. So when you said to send an iconic photo, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, you have all photographers listening to your podcast. It was intimidating, but I had to really go within and choose the photo that felt iconic to my story and my journey. And the first photo very clearly that came to my mind is a photo that is not technically wonderful. The focus is off, but it means so much to me. It's a self-portrait that I did in the bathtub with my two daughters. And this was taken in January of 2018. So this was right when I started Mastery Moment Seekers and had made that decision to take this photography route. But this was also the time in my life that the postpartum depression was really starting to fade away. And I was starting to feel like there was a break in the storm clouds. And I could see this glimmer of hope and light in my future for the very first time in years. Because the depression started before I had kids. So this was the first time that I'm really seeing this glimmer of hope in quite a long time. And so the photo, I'm reaching out and I'm helping my daughter, who is about 6 months old there, stand up in the bathtub because it was just easier to get in the tub with them at this age for me. I was so depressed and exhausted that getting in the tub felt like a little bit of self-care time. So I would just get in with them and sit in the warm water And so I decided to take a photo of this. And so I set up my camera, brought over, used my phone as the remote, and it wasn't posed. I knew I had taken a few where I was visible and you could see me, and I was hating the way I looked. I had very low self-esteem and I wasn't happy with how that was turning out. So I decided to hide myself behind the shower curtain, and just so that I could have a photo that I thought would, I'd put it in the photo album of this was what bath time looked like. I didn't think it would be something I'd ever share publicly. But then after I took this photo and saw it and saw how I'm reaching out and I'm holding Hathaway, my youngest, and she's reaching out, and she happened to reach out and just hold my oldest's head at the same time that the photo was taken. So it's this link. You just see my arms reaching out from behind the shower curtain, holding up Hathaway, and Hathaway's facing Harper. They're facing each other, and Hathaway is reaching out and holding Harper's head in the same way that I'm holding her. And it brings me to tears every time, because it's just this resemblance to me of how Hathaway was really she was that first, she brought in that first glimmer of hope. She became the link to not just to my life, but to my family again. I had felt very disconnected. And while I was there every day, because I was a stay-at-home mom, I didn't feel present. And so this was just the beginning of that hope and that joy coming back into my life, and me feeling like I'm connected to my life and to Harper and my husband again. And so it just kind of represents that. I'm not fully emerged. I'm still somewhat hidden, but I'm reaching out and I can see what's to come.
Yeah, it was the first steps in that season of change for yourself.
Yeah. And I was still in a dark place. I had that glimmer of hope, but I was still in a really dark place.
Yeah,
on the inside. And so I just feel that when I look at this photo. And I also love that my grandma's towel is in the picture. The towel that's on the toilet is my grandma's, and it has her infamous owls that she loved on them. And my grandma is now, she was passed away then when I took that picture, but she's, a spirit guide of mine. I often in my meditation and my hypnosis will call on my grandma and ask for wisdom.
It's so beautiful.
I feel she's with me, and I feel, she's a catalyst, a spiritual catalyst to this journey of mine of helping other women with their anxiety and depression. So I love that the towel is in there.
Yeah. I remember in the preservation project, when you did that, had she recently passed away in that time? And was she one of the grandmas who helped raise you alongside your dad or something like that?
Yes. She hadn't, it was about a year at that point, but
okay.
It was my other grandma, my other grandma who had passed away right around the time of the project. And so, but that was what I was working on in that. I wanted to preserve both of my grandmas. Yeah. But yes, the grandma whose towel that is the grandma who helped raise me. So she was a big pivotal part of my life, and she still is.
Yeah. And for this photo to be so special, and that towel of all towels you grabbed that day, that's so cool that it's in there. So the next photo is like a fast forward. When was this photographed?
So this was taken 6 months later in Florida. It was actually on Hathaway's first birthday. And why I chose this photo, it's not documentary. It's a cheesy posed photo, but it means so much to me because I forced my family to go out, by the way, at sunrise to go catch the sunrise at 5 a.m. that morning. Because I wanted to recreate a picture of Max and I on the same beach kissing from years prior. And I wanted to recreate that with our children this time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we have a really, bad quality iPhone picture from, I don't know when, 2010 of us on the same beach during sunrise. And so I just wanted to recreate that. But the reason that this stood out to me as an iconic photo as well, is because this is the first glimmer of me stepping into that future.
Yeah.
I had just signed up to, I had just signed up for my coach training program a couple weeks before this picture was taken. And I was actually, it was one of those intuitive hits that I'm like, I need to do this now. Which meant that when I flew home from Florida from this trip that we were on in the picture, we got home at 10 o'clock at night. I got in the car and had to drive 4 hours north so that I could attend the first in-person module of that coach training. And my husband was like, why don't you just wait till the next time they open it up? And I think it was January. And no, I need to do it now. I knew I had to. And I had signed up for Julie's retreat at this point. And this is when I really knew that that I was putting the photography away. I hadn't taken the action to do that yet, but I knew that the photography business was going to be going away as I ventured into the coaching. And I had also started, I had found Grace Smith a couple weeks before this picture was taken as well. So I had been doing hypnosis every day. I'd been doing self-hypnosis every day. I was reading her book, Close Your Eyes, Get Free at the time. And I really felt like my life is changing now. I was showing up differently for my family. I was that more vibrant wife and mother and woman. And it was still just the beginning, but the photo represents that joy and that excitement for me. And I also I just have to add that I love that there is, obviously we didn't plan for this, but there's a ship sailing in the background.
Yeah.
And our first dance, Max and I, our first dance at our wedding was You and Me by Dave Matthews. And it talks about sailing a boat all the way to the end of the world, and we'll teach the kids to fly. So I love that we're holding them up like they're flying, and there's this boat sailing off to what looks like the end of the world.
Oh, that is some serendipity right there.
Yes.
And I assumed this was sunset, thinking that looks like one of those cool, it sure is probably like a fish. Whoops. Sorry, my earbud just fell out. It looks like a fishing boat or something, but I was like, maybe it could be like a sunset cruise or something. So that's really cool I just love all of that. And then as you were talking about how you knew at this point that your life was changing, and even though it hadn't fully changed quite yet, what came up for me as you were talking was just like, she must have felt this resemblance of confidence that if nothing else, she's not going back to that super dark place. And that must have felt just like a relief.
Yeah, it was such a relief. Yeah, that's exactly it. I was stepping out of that darkness, and I think I was, at that point, I was out of that darkness, and I was closing the door on that darkness. And so I do love that this is a sunrise, because it's that, that first light break after the complete darkness. And that's what that was for me at that time in my life. And it's cool looking back on it now, just over a year later, and seeing where my life is now, and that woman in that picture had no idea how beautifully it would unfold and how quickly it would unfold. So,
yeah, Gretchen Rubin says this in terms of family and raising kids, but like that old saying of the days are long, but the years are short. I don't know about you, but just like in this journey of life, sometimes it feels so slow to know, okay, where am I actually headed? And am I on the right path? And all of that. And that is really cool to think of, like, all that you've done in the last year. And it's not about like how much you did, but it's like the transformation has been pretty big.
The transformation has been huge. And you're absolutely right that, there were moments throughout the last year that I thought, man, I am making no progress. Man, this is so slow going, I just want, it's that anxiousness to be at that final destination now. And it's really realizing that the journey is the destination. And if you just show up experiencing that day by day, and I've had to really learn to trust that the slow days, the days of where there's less action and more being, are so necessary, and they don't slow things down. If anything, they are a catalyst so that when you do go into action mode, you create action from a place of alignment. So it's inspired and it's easy and effortless to create that action. And so there were moments of me thinking, man, this is so slow moving. It's going to take me forever to get to where I want to be. And now a year later, looking back, so much happened in that year that it's hard to believe that there were moments that I even thought that, wow, this is slow moving. Like, it's incredible.
It is. I needed that reminder today. I was actually, before this call, just complaining to somebody else about all the things that I've been working on and just frustrated. And it's so true. Like, it's a day by day thing. And truly, like, you end up looking back and all these things that feel so big right now end up being, not that they're not so big, but like you come so far from it faster than you think, I think, more often than not. But in the moments, it just feels like as slow as molasses. Mm-hmm. So speaking of day by day, you have a treat for us today with a hypnosis. So I'm going to let you 100% lead through this one. Okay. I think we're coming up near the end of this. And so Aubrey is going to guide us, and you can give them the little disclaimer to not drive and whatever else you need to say. And then we'll come back at the end and we'll tell them about your website. We'll tell them about whole woman healing and all that fun stuff. But I'm going to let you just drive this thing.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm so excited to share. This is the self-hypnosis process that Grace Space Hypnosis teaches in the training. And so it's a process that all of Grace Space hypnotists share with their clients so that their clients can then practice their hypnosis and anchor in their transformation every day. And it's a process that can take as little as 30 seconds, or it can take 2 minutes or 5 minutes or however long you want, but it's something that you can do super quickly, just to center yourself and align. Just to give a quick, if you're not familiar with hypnosis, hypnosis is not mind control. It's not truth serum. You can't get stuck in a trance. There are a lot of misconceptions around hypnosis and what it is. Stage shows really like to play on this misconception that it's mind control, but really, stage hypnotists are calling up volunteers. So those people want to be doing the crazy things. And if you've ever seen a stage show, as it continues on, people end up stop participating. And the hypnotist is usually left with a couple people at the end that are still doing all of the crazy things. And that's because they're always in control. They always have that choice to either do what they're being asked to do or not do that. And at the end, the stage hypnotist will usually give a suggestion of, if you choose to forget what happened to you on stage today, you may do so now. And most people will choose to forget. So if you've ever talked to somebody who says, oh, I did a stage show and they made me do all of these different crazy things and I don't remember any of it, it's all just part of the show. They chose to go up there, they chose to participate, and then they chose to forget, understandably. So the way that clinical hypnosis is different is that we really have the goal of holding the client's agenda in mind, and we want to see progress and positive change in our clients. So we want you to remember everything. So I won't be using suggestions like that, and just know that this is much like a guided meditation. It's just a deeply relaxed state of focus where you're able to access your subconscious and bypass this critical factor of our conscious mind that likes to tell us to be fearful or to worry or that we can't do things. It's that conditioned part of the mind. So we bypass that in hypnosis so that we can find some peace, some calm. So today we'll just do that. We'll just do a little stress reduction, a little centering. And so if you are driving, please turn off the recording now, skip to the end so you can get my info. But if you are driving, please don't listen to this. Make sure you're in a nice, safe, distraction-free place. We'll go ahead and begin. And actually, before we begin, I'll ask you, Marie, and all of the listeners can just do this for themselves. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being completely calm and relaxed, the most calm and relaxed you've ever been, to 10 being so stressed out that you're experiencing a panic attack, which hopefully nobody is full on 10 right now. But on a scale of 0 to 10, where is your stress right now?
Oh, that is a really good question. Because talking to you, I'm like, my stress is kind of low, but when I start thinking about all the noise in my life, I'd have to probably say 6.
Ooh, a 6. Okay. So it's a really great practice to start off your day with. Just notice when you wake up, where's my stress level on that 0 to 10? And then you can do a little of this. You can do this self-hypnosis process and lower it back down. You'll see how easy it is to lower that stress level with this process. And then just keep an eye on that throughout your day. Where is your stress level throughout your day? And then I let my clients know that you can drop into this 30-second process, go to the bathroom for 30 seconds, whatever you need to drop that back down to a lower number. So let's get that 6 down to something more manageable. So taking a nice, deep, letting go breath, closing your eyes all the way down. Because it's okay to relax today. It's okay to relax right now, right here. And as you relax, you begin to notice that a color you love is forming at the top of your head. Allowing this color that you love to form at the top of your head. Very good. Some people might see this color, some people might feel the color. However you experience the color is perfect for you. You're doing very well. Now letting that color that you love flow in through the top of your head, all the way through your body and out the bottoms of your feet, where it travels all the way down to the center of the earth. Very, very good. In just a moment, I'll begin to count down from 10 to 1. With each number that I say, it'll be as if you are taking a step down on a perfect, beautiful staircase. A staircase that is perfect for you. It could be elaborate and ornate. It could be simple and made of reclaimed wood. It could be stars or a waterfall staircase. Whatever you imagine, it's perfect for you. And you notice you're standing at the top of that staircase, and there are 10 steps. Getting ready to take your first step down now. 10. Letting that color you love flow through you. 9. Taking a nice, deep, letting go breath. 8. Relaxing, releasing, and letting go all the way down. 7. The deeper you go, the better you feel. 6. The better you feel, the deeper you go. 5. Another step down on your perfect staircase, and you notice how you love to walk down this perfect staircase because it's perfect for you and it feels so good to relax. 4. You know relaxation is a habit. It's something you can become good at. In fact, you're becoming good at that habit right now. Relaxing, releasing, and really letting go. 3. Another nice, deep, letting go breath. 2. Almost there now. And 1. Very, very good. Allowing yourself to relax even deeper as that color you love flows in through the top of your head, all the way through your body, and out the bottoms of your feet. Very, very good. Now repeating in your mind after me a very powerful and very true statement. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Very good. Repeating in your mind again after me. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Very good. One more time. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Very good. Letting that color you love flow in through the top of your head, all the way through your body and out the bottoms of your feet. As you take a moment now to see, feel, and experience the rest of your day, feeling safe, calm, and present. Seeing and experiencing what that sense of safety, calmness, and presence allows you to do, who it allows you to be throughout your day, seeing who that allows you to be throughout the next week, taking your time and bringing in as much detail as you can. Very good. And then allowing that color you love to flow in through the top of your head, all the way through your body and out the bottoms of your feet, sealing in the transformation that you've just created here within yourself. And then when you're ready, with a smile on your lips, you can open your eyes. And when you're ready, Marie, if you would just want to share what you feel your new stress level is at between a 0 and a 10.
Well, you all are probably going to hear my pillow talk voice now because I am so relaxed. Oh, man. I mean, I have to say like a 0. I just feel I was on the staircase, and the staircase that came up was I'll have to send you a picture later.
Yeah.
We have my backyard, which I live literally in the middle of the forest on a mountain. And we have this rock wall. It's a retaining wall on the side of the mountain. It's not very tall. I'm taller than it, but there's a staircase that goes up into the forest. At the top, there is a rock that in the real estate listing, it said that it was her meditation rock, she called it. So I just immediately went into that scene of coming down those stairs, and I don't know why, but I didn't see my feet going down the stairs, but I saw we have a puppy. We've had him for a little less than a month, and I just kept seeing him run and playing in the backyard, and I think the kids were following him, but I just saw him, like the way that when you see a dog running and their lips and their face is just all jiggly, and I just felt so much love when I saw that. I don't know, that was very vibrant when I went through that. And then when you asked us to think about our day and our week, everything that popped up of how I'm going to be spending my time and what I'm going to be doing and how that's going to feel, when you went like in the end and you were saying, I am safe and I am calm. And I forget what was the last thing?
I choose to be here, which just
yes
means the present moment. Yeah.
Yes. Well, everything that when you said that, what came up was just, I was just thinking about how lucky I am to be able to have these conversations like I do, like what we're doing right now. Like this just feels like such a gift. And I just thought about man, I can't, like, I don't, the safe place I just thought of when I get the kids off of the school bus, and just all these little moments that are left in my week just started sprinkling in, and it just, this feeling of love and gratitude. And like, so not only do I feel like my stress has just like been lifted, but I just feel like, wow, this week is such a treat. The rest of it is going to be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about that, but I was just thinking about my to-do list, a little bit ago. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So it's a really powerful process. And of course, I added a lot of words to make it nice and dreamy so that you can really relax into it. But when you break down the steps, it can take, 2 minutes or less to do. And you just showed that that we all have the ability to take our stress from a level 6 to a level 0.
Yeah.
And how you can, check in with yourself throughout the day. I can email you this self-hypnosis process. And if any of your listeners want to, they'll be able to go to my website and be able to see a video of the self-hypnosis process, as well as get the breakdown so that they can do it on their own too.
Yes.
But yeah, so you just check in with your stress level and say, oops, it's going up to a 3, not even halfway to that 6 even. And you can just drop in, even just running a color through you and saying, I am safe, I am calm, I choose to be here. That can have a great power as well. So it's an easy little thing to do throughout our day. And I would love to share with you quick just about how it works.
Yes, absolutely. I love the why and the how behind everything. So yes.
It is so cool. So there is, I love to share the how with a study that was done on Olympic athletes.
Okay.
So they did this study on Olympic athletes where they hooked them up to all of these, machines to monitor different things within their bodies as they went through a typical training day. So they monitored things such as their brain activity, the chemical reactions in their body, and even their muscle mass increase and their performance increase as an athlete. And then they had them they took them on an off day where they did not go into training at all. And they instead relaxed into a hypnotic state, and they envisioned the same training day that they had done before. So every push-up, every sit-up, every free throw, every shot, whatever they do, they envisioned the exact same training day. And the results that they got were exactly the same. The same brain activity, the same chemical reactions within their body, and the same performance increase and muscle mass increase.
That's wild.
It's wild. So what they determined from that, it gives me goosebumps every time. What they determined from that is that our subconscious does not understand the difference between thoughts and reality, which is why everyone is so big on our thoughts are so important right now, because it's true. Our thoughts create our reality.
Yeah.
And so our body will respond in such, if we're thinking and believing something's going to happen, our body responds as such. And so too many people utilize this without knowing and have panic attacks and anxiety over things that either happened in the past or might not even happen in the future, but because they're thinking about it, creates that reaction within their body. And so in hypnosis, what we're doing is we're utilizing that visioning of how this is going to change your life and how you're going to show up with, we just did a simple little affirmation, but when I work one-on-one with clients, we create an affirmation that they'll say within their hypnosis, whether it's to quit smoking or stop nail biting or to reduce their stress or to stop yelling at their kids and show up more compassionately instead, whatever it is. We create a little affirmation based on that, so that when they're in that visioning portion, they're seeing themselves showing up as a compassionate mother. They're seeing themselves choosing water over a cigarette. They're seeing themselves create those changes so that it's actually chemically changing within their body.
That is insane.
It's so cool. So then they go out into the world and you start to live your life and you realize, oh, wow, my child just freaked out and I got down and hugged her instead of yelled at her.
Yeah.
Or I went for the glass of water or the healthier food or whatever it is. It happens subconsciously. It happens automatically because we're doing the work in the subconscious. As you're talking, I'm just thinking about how often, like when I'm like really taking care of myself with like nutrition and fitness or
like when I'm like just different things, you know, how you get involved in different groups or you get into listening to a certain type of like marketing or business podcast versus like a parenting podcast. Like I find like just being in different environments, like I always end up becoming just a better person because it's top of mind. So I can only imagine how much more powerful it must be when you're actually envisioning yourself like doing the things that you want to be doing through the hypnosis and the affirmations, like because when you're just in an environment with other people, say like fitness buddies or whatever, like it's still just outside noise, but when you are having these affirmations and the hypnosis, like that makes so much sense in why that would work. I think like it's so easy to eventually drop out of a fitness group and not like see the changes you want to make happen because you're not doing the inner work. You're just in an environment. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I do a whole lot of self-hypnosis to get myself to the gym.
Yeah.
It takes the self-hypnosis to get me there.
Yeah. I think I need some of those, but this was so good, Aubrey. This was so unexpected and amazing. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
So you can find me at www.aubreyvejvoda.com. And that's V as in Victor, E, J, V as in Victor, O, D as in dog, A. Not the easiest one to spell, but that's my website. You can also find me on Instagram at Aubrey4, the number 4, love. And I'm on Facebook as well. I think that's Coach Aubrey V on Facebook. So,
okay, yeah. Awesome. And I will link to, of course, all of Aubrey's links in the show notes, and to you were going to email me the self hypnosis a video, I think, right?
I'll email you the scripts, but by the time this airs, your listeners will be able to go onto my website and
got it
video with the scripts, as well.
Fantastic, yeah. So I'll link directly to that in the show notes. And Aubrey, thank you so much. This is just I'm so inspired myself right now to, for one, like learn more about self-hypnosis, because this is 100% brand new to me, but also just hearing you talk about the future me meditations. At the time that I was doing those a lot, I was also doing a lot of future-paced journaling. And as you were talking, I realized like I haven't done that stuff in forever. Like I want to get back to that. Like I had so much transformation and change. And now I've been living here for 2 years, and I'm like just so open to whatever. Yeah. I'm like just so open to whatever's next, but I haven't been really cultivating much of anything that's going to reveal new divine breadcrumbs or anything. I haven't even been picturing my future self in a long time. So thank you, truly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And, maybe it's something you want to work on more with one-on-one too, because with the one-on-one private hypnotherapy, group is great. Recordings are great. Self-hypnosis is great, but there's something about having, I work with some of my hypnosisters so that I can receive hypnotherapy as well, because working with a hypnotist who can guide you through your experience allows you to go so much deeper and create so much more transformation. They say on average, you go about 40 to 50% deeper into your relaxation, into your subconscious when you're working one-on-one with a hypnotist. And just imagine being able to, because typically I'd have you talk out loud. So I would hear where you're at, and we'd be going through a process. So I know where you're at. I know what you want to be doing. And then we insert imagery and suggest affirmations, or otherwise known as suggestions, that support what it is that you're experiencing in your subconscious. It's so powerful.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so exciting. And that is a huge difference in how much deeper you go. So I want to hear more about that for sure. And something else came up too. Nope, I lost it. I don't remember. Oh, well, thank you again for being on here. This has honestly been my pleasure.
Oh, it's such an honor. Thank you, Marie.
Welcome back. Visit the show notes for all of the goodness in today's episode and how to connect with Aubrey at dangerouslygoodstories.com/077. Thank you so much for listening to this, but before you go, I've got one more quick story to share with you. Since recording this episode back in September 2019, I had 6 one-on-one hypnosis sessions with Aubrey. So I felt like I need to tell you about that before I let you go. So as you heard, I was already a fan of future me meditations and such, but this was my first time working in the capacity of a personalized hypnosis where I'm actually having a conversation with somebody else. So in my sessions, throughout my 6 sessions, we covered things like feeling more financially secure and responsible, feeling patient and trusting what comes when I felt this urgency building up and this responsibility to fix everything and have this tight grip on control when I had this relationship conflict one week. And I felt immediate results after this particular hypnosis where I just felt like completely like I can let go and trust that whatever comes is right and it's in perfect timing. And I know that sounds like, well, duh, just do that. But I don't know, like I really felt an internal and mental shift after that one. I also gained clarity on my ideal client for my new brand. This was the very last hypnosis that we did. And it had been, so my ideal client had been kind of fuzzy prior because it's been really hard to move into dangerously good stories and sort of strip away the photographer piece because I've been speaking to photographers for so long. So the visualization that we did through that hypnosis was the most vivid I had had, and it has completely pivoted how I'm approaching a particular project because of what I saw in that visualization. It's making the process simpler. It's lowering my expectations that were kind of grand and upscale and luxury. And because of that, it's also lowering my expenses and like all of that. It doesn't feel restricting or like I'm settling for less than the best. Like this actually feels really freaking good, which I was not expecting to feel quite that way. So some little divine breadcrumbs that came up along the way. 2 days after one hypnosis, I created the Tiny Story Society. I'm sorry, it's closed right now if you're curious about it, but point being, it just popped into my head one day. And I have no doubt that it had to do with this energy work that I was doing through the hypnoses. I don't know. What's the plural word for hypnosis? Anyway, one day I also did a hypnosis feeling resistance to what I was creating. And this was moving into putting the Tiny Story Society together and opening it up to the world. I was feeling resistance around the whole launch and opening of it. And shortly after that hypnosis, the idea to model a previous proven launch popped into my head, and it felt right and it felt easy. Like I just invited ease in the door and it was going to stick around for a while. And then the last divine breadcrumb I'll tell you about, which there is more, but just for the sake of brevity, one day I felt super resistant to doing a webinar. And you might remember this because it was only about a month ago. And I got a stomach bug, and that was legit, like a real stomach bug. I'm not making that up. Call it a coincidence or call it a divine nudge to pivot and release the content in another less like resistance feeling way that felt better for my mental health at the time. I've got some emotional baggage when it comes to webinars right now. So I didn't like the idea of doing this webinar and feeling like, oh my gosh, now I'm selling something. And that stomach bug just came at the right timing. And then I ended up releasing that to the people who had signed up. I sent them my practice run of it, which would be, of course, just like me doing it live. And then I sent it out as a podcast, and I've opened up my inbox and the Tiny Story Society. If they were to have moved onto the sales page there, they could have chatted with me. So, I don't know, it just overall felt so much better. And I'm not sure that idea would have come up had I not had the stomach bug. And I don't know, like it was just, is that coincidence or is it God or the universe or whatever, like pointing me in a more right direction for myself? So you might be wondering, Would some of these things come up without my hypnosis or hypnoses, whatever we call that? Of course. Some of these things come up naturally in your life as well. And I am no stranger to energy work, as you've heard, especially using other tools like journaling. But this time was on my calendar. This time with Aubrey doing these, hypnosis sessions. It was sometimes it was weekly, sometimes it was every other week, just sort of depended on how our schedules fell. But I think we had the 6 sessions done in like between 8 and 10 weeks tops. So I couldn't not do the energy work. Whereas when it comes to journaling or listening to my own guided meditations that I find on the internet, or like doing my self hypnosis or meditation processes, it is really freaking easy for me to put that stuff off when my to-do list is a mile long. It's like, well, that stuff doesn't matter. That can wait, that can wait, that can wait. And then before you know it, you're just swimming in all of the noise that's in your head. So I loved that this time was on my calendar. And honestly, I think it made things align faster. The best way to describe working with Aubrey is that I had all these little mental energy spikes that kept propelling me forward. And that's what it's about, right? So here's a few tips from my experience. If you're going to give this a try, do at least 3 of them. The first time or 2, you'll be paying attention to what's happening, which I think blocks you from that ability to really go deep and just sort of let go of whatever's going on around you. And once you build up that trust in the process and it's not so scary and foreign, you'll get that ability to go deeper. And by deeper, I mean just really free to go where that guidance is taking you. I think that's why like the very last session that I had was so incredibly vivid. It was because at that point, I wholly trusted my, the guidance that Aubrey was giving me. I wasn't like, okay, where's she going with next? And what other sounds am I experiencing around me and things like that. So I felt not only was that visual very vivid, but my body was just incredibly relaxed. So do at least 3. And then if you do this one-on-one with somebody over the phone, I found that putting my AirPods or earbuds in were very, very helpful. In the very first hypnosis I did with Aubrey, my dog was kind of buggy. He had been sleeping and then just decided to get up. So that was really distracting. So the next time that I did this, I got really lucky and he actually went to like a doggy, like day camp type thing, for a lot of my sessions. But another time when I knew that I'd be at home with him and I didn't know if he would get up and distract me, I did this from my Jeep. So that way I had no interruption. So my final piece of advice, write down what came up for you after you're done while it's fresh on your mind. That part has been just so helpful. So that way I have just proof in the transformation and in the work that I'm done that I can visually see. I mean, definitely inside inside I felt it as well, but it's just, I don't know. I like to see things in writing and I like to see that storyline grow. So that's all for now. Again, thank you for listening. I know this has been ridiculously long, but I hope that you enjoyed this and I'll talk to you soon. Stay awake for your stories. I'll see you next week.